From Mississippi to Michigan, back to Mississippi, nothing but crimes, nothing but ruined lives from this here pastor. Let's talk about it. They 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 talk about it. Welcome back to She Could Talk to Podcast. I'm your host, Gangali. And that's Gangalee on all streaming platforms. If you want to check out my music, look for the glasses, look for the locks. You tell me if I can. Okay, but over here on YouTube, on She Could Talk to Podcast, this is where I react to everything. I react to news, sports, crimes, musicians, politicians, YouTubers, TikTokers. If they're talking about it, we are talking about it, okay? Okay, so on this episode here, I am, for some reason or another, back in Mississippi. This time we are in Mount Olive, Mississippi. And there's a pastor out there, very well known, I guess, in the town, who is causing mayhem. He is accused of embezzling close to $90,000 from his church and congregation. Okay, so it was a rabbit hole that I fell down. And the way it had me feeling and my spidey senses tingling, I wanted to share it all with you all out there. Shout out to my subscribers out there. Shout out to you all. We are growing. We're growing daily. We're growing in numbers. We're growing in spirit. We're growing as a community. So shout out to y'all. But what I wanted to say was, I want you all out there to tell me, am I reaching, or is there one and two that makes three out of this story here? There's a couple of moving parts, so I want you all to buckle up, okay? Bear with me as I get through it, because it's a lot, but here we go, okay? So the first part, like I said, we're in Mount Olive, Mississippi, with Pastor Strictivar Strickland, a.k.a. Pastor Strickland, which the name alone gets a what in my book. But let's continue. Let's go over here and let's look at this news article.
A Mount Olive pastor arrested and charged with embezzling thousands of dollars in church funds is denying the allegations.
12 News' Brandon Rains spoke with the pastor who says he and his church are targets of harassment.
Javar Floyd Strickland, pastor of Galilee Missionary Baptist Church, is denying claims that he stole or misused church funds. Investigators arrested Strickland and church deacon Armand Barnes and charged them with embezzling more than $90,000 from the church. But Strickland is maintaining their innocence.
I don't have access to any financials of the church. I simply work as the agent of the church on behalf and in response to the wishes of the church. So,
okay.
You know, it was really shocking to see that I would be called on the carpet for something like embezzlement when I don't have access to any money.
Strickland explains that a church committee approves all expenses and the congregation is informed of any major purchases.
Each check that we write at this church is typically bearing of 2 signatures, and that's how we operate.
Pastor Strickland says the allegations stem from former members of the church and others outside of the church.
3 people who have been harassing and just coming against the church since I got here in June. This is not something that just started. This has been going on, and any of you that have the opportunity to go back and peruse Facebook, this has been going on since June.
The pastor suggests the claims were made to get him kicked out of the church.
Right,
the congregation is standing firm behind him.
The congregation is standing firm behind him. I wanted to point this out, right? Because the church divided, allegedly, as a result of this embezzlement allegations, plus a couple of other things that we will get into. But he has a steadfast group of supporters that are riding with him to the end. And this is them. So when the news showed up, his steadfast supporters rolled in and was supporting him and saying, our pastor is not leaving, he's our pastor, and we're not leaving, this is our church. Does anything look ironically familiar? I don't know these ladies at all. And I know they're probably mean, well-intentioned women, that are, believe that they're doing the right thing in the name of the Lord and serving their God and serving their pastor, more so serving their pastor, in my opinion. But they think they're doing the right thing. They might. And these are the type of women that would attack you in behalf of their pastor and tell you that you are horrible, you know. But we're going to get to, and the reason why I want you to remember this, the group of supporters is very important to this rabbit hole we're about to fall down. All right, let's continue.
Over 60 signatures requesting an end to the investigation.
They want control. They want power that does not belong to them or me. I'm here to empower the people and to empower the congregation. And that's the reason why I'm not concerned about these allegations, because we've got a church that's really transparent, and we've got a lot of people involved in leadership that know exactly what's going on.
Strickland says he's most concerned about elderly church members who are having to deal with harassment.
He's more concerned about elderly church members who has to deal with harassment because they support him. And let's continue.
Has caused senior citizens of this church to literally be afraid for their lives, afraid to come to church on Sunday morning because they are looking at the various threats, toxicity, and the instability.
Strickland says he will be pursuing legal action and has no intention of stepping down as pastor. In Mount Olive, Brendan Rains, 12 News.
All right. So we're going to pause for a moment, guys, okay? Some people might say, oh, that's nothing new. You've seen it happen in churches before. People argue over money. Someone embezzled. Someone wrote some checks out for themselves, bought their wife an Escalade. You've heard the stories about that in churches before. I was in Virginia. I lived in Virginia for many years. And there was a big historical church in Portsmouth, Virginia, where the congregation started fighting not only each other, the pastor's family, and it was a whole brawl. One lady came out with like scratches and bleeding. And these were like the church ladies, the elders of the church. Because of money and situations, and they didn't, they wanted a certain pastor to be picked, and when he wasn't picked, all hell broke loose in the house of God. Now, I don't know how you take that, how you want to take that, but we're going to stay over here on the pastor, right? And ironically, what's on my screen here, Alabama pastor arrested while watering neighbor's garden. I don't know what that was about. Oh, yeah, I remember that. That wasn't actually a bad stuff because he was helping his neighbor out, and his neighbor was elderly, and he was watering the grass, lived next door, and people saw a black man in a white man's yard. It was crazy. But I remember that story. That pastor is a good pastor. But listen, we're going to get back to Strickland. Pastor Strickland. I said, I've heard that name before. He looks a little different, but the name sounds so familiar to me. So I said, let me see if there's anything else going on with the pastor. And then this popped up for me. Now, I first saw this story on Investigative Discovery. Do any of you out there watch Investigative Discovery? Do you know what type of shows and stories they tell up there? Okay, well, this one was on a series, a variety. It was on Investigative Discovery. It was on TV One, Fatal Attraction. It's one of those type of stories. One of those type of stories. But let's continue.
So, we move forward. We have a great couple weeks.
I'm going to set the premise for you, though, right here. This is body cam footage from a police officer in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Kalamazoo, Michigan, where a 21-year-old girl was missing, and her family called them out there to do a welfare check on her. She's in college, she's a student, and she hasn't checked in with her family and friends for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Oh, they said they had a great couple of weeks. Okay, so let me go back a bit. Couple of days she was missing, and they came out to look for her. In the interim, her boyfriend, who's also a college student, 21 years old, they're kids, came up to the police officer. And I'm not going to stay here long. I'm just trying to, do a segue. Came up to the police officer and started to have this conversation.
And recently, Sunday, we had
2018.
Because I just moved back, so I don't have a job. I don't have the money. The week before, Sunday, or maybe 2 weeks, I don't know, she told me, you know, you're not doing enough. I told her I could call my dad, ask for some help, and whatever. And she just basically bashed me, told me all this shit, told me everything about me.
So you heard this, right? He said he's a young kid. I don't even think he dropped out of school. I know he played basketball in college or community college. He said he moved back to Michigan, where he was at currently, and he moved there with his girlfriend. He didn't have a job. He's just got back in town. She said he said they had a good couple of weeks, and then she started bashing him like, hey, you need to bring some money in, blah, blah, blah. He said, okay, well, I'm going to call my dad to see if my dad can, help me out until I get a job and get on my feet. And she was like, that ain't good enough. Okay? Now, young love, I'm not going to say that the end result of this was right, but something about this always had my spidey senses tingling. Let's go.
All right. Saturday, Sunday came.
Let's have a seat in the back of my car real quick, man. Yep. Hey, sit tight, okay? We're on the east side of the city somewhere.
And I'm not trying to stay through all of the
What
interrogation.
did he say, East Main or something? He told me. He didn't tell me that much yet. They ain't gotten that far. Okay.
All right, so
Chris was happy to keep talking, though officers preferred to have detectives assigned before they took the interview any further. As they placed Donovan formally under arrest and in the back of a cruiser, he continued to provide scattered details.
He basically said he unalived his girlfriend in Kalamazoo, Michigan, because she kept on a couple of things were happening, right? The one particular one that he started out with was, hey, I didn't have a job, and she kept on telling me, hey, you don't have no money, and she was just bashing me, and I was going to ask my dad to help, but she just kept on bashing me, and I'm trying to get a job. That was the first part. Now they arrested him because they said, okay, this girl's been missing. It's a concern. You walk up to us in the middle of the night as we're looking for her, and you start to tell us this. They arrest him because he basically confessed to unaliving her. So now let's continue.
Officer Libretto arrived back on scene to find that the case that seemed to be only a possible missing persons minutes earlier was now a homicide.
Is she in the truck, one of these cars?
No. He told us that he's in creeks around the east side. I think maybe on the east side.
In the creek?
In the creek.
Okay. Well, that took a twist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go up a bit.
Pastor, while
Let's go back because I think
now the point of contact, he drove Donovan to the station and continued to make small talk with him while they awaited the arrival of detectives.
If he chooses to spontaneously utter things.
Text messages from her pastor. He believed that
and I was trying to get through it. So now he's telling them, look at them together. They're young kids, right? He's saying that he felt like something is going on with his girlfriend. He felt like somebody had an influence over her. And the tires on her car kept on getting slashed. The tires on her car is getting slashed. Imagine you're at home with someone and they're bashing you because you're not working or you're not, providing. And then you're confused as to what else is going on out here because it's a couple of other weird things going on. So he started to feel that she was cheating on him because all of a sudden he's not good enough for her. And they've been high school sweethearts, college sweethearts all this time. So let's continue.
The two were physically involved. He further claimed, now the point of contact, he drove Donovan to the station and continued to make small talk with him while they awaited the arrival of detectives.
Young kid.
If he chooses to spontaneously utter things.
Text messages from her pastor. He believed that the two were physically involved. He further claimed that since Anaya had been struggling financially, that she had been blackmailing the pastor while Donovan was out of state. The pastor had been paying her rent, her phone bill, and giving her the second Malibu to drive.
What's been going on?
Just had a rough week. Last week, the car had the pastor loaned it. That tire went flat.
Oh, is that what happened?
It was a slow week, so you had to keep refilling it and refilling it. And on Sunday, when we were on my family lighthouse, she wanted to go to church. She went outside, and the front tire was flat.
Think somebody's doing it? Or you think the car's just old and the tires are bad, or what?
I don't know. I found out that
For him to mention that leads me to believe that he felt somebody was messing with the vehicle, that the pastor loaned his girlfriend so they can get back and forth and get around because he's not working and she clearly does not make enough money to, take care of them because they're both 21-year-old college students in Michigan. And so him saying that to me, as me just observing, lets me feel like there was someone messing with that vehicle at nighttime, and that was putting him on edge. So let's continue.
whatever she got going on with the pastor.
Oh.
And when she got the car, she told me the mechanic came to pick her up, and she told me, she got a new car, we got a loan car from the church.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, she told me, after I kind of gave her, I told her I want to have a sit down with her because he ended up picking her up and apparently threatened her.
The pastor threatened her over the car, or why?
Because she was using him. She told him she would tell.
All right. The pastor is having an illicit affair with a 21-year-old college student who has a boyfriend. The boyfriend says, you said you bought this car for the pastor because we was having problems with the other car. Now you just get another car. They're talking about she bought it from the church. He says, I want to have a sit down with you and the pastor because what's going on here? And, she's telling him the pastor's threatening her. So she's going to go public and tell people that, about their illicit affair. And he's like, what is going on? Let me talk to the pastor.
You said you can't do this to me.
How was he using her? Like they had a relationship or something going on, you mean?
I went to her phone.
Who's her pastor? What church does she go to?
Second Baptist, right there by the bus station.
Okay.
Wait for it.
Pastor Strickland.
Pastor Strickland.
An argument had broken out at Anaya's apartment that
the same pastor that right now in 2025 in Mount Olive, Mississippi, that is accused of embezzling $90,000 is the same exact pastor that was in Kalamazoo, Michigan in 2018 when this young couple, both in my opinion, had a demise. He's in jail for killing her, for messing with the pastor. That pastor. Let's continue.
Sunday, prompted in part by the ongoing tensions caused by her relationship with her pastor, Strickland, of the Second Baptist Church. The pastor, who was married, was also the local...
Look at his wife. Let's go back. There's a couple of things. I'm dropping breadcrumbs. Excuse me. The first part of the breadcrumb is, remember his supporters in 2025. The church full of people or women that are supporting him regardless of what the rest of the church feel like. Remember them. Then we're going to go up here. I'm going to pause it on his wife.
Prompted in part by the ongoing tensions caused by her relationship with her pastor, Strickland, of the Second Baptist Church.
So yeah, this is why in 2025, to me, I was like, that name is just sticking out like a neon sign. But he might have lost a little bit of weight, got older, I don't know. His hair looks a little bit longer, it's styled differently. Changing up his appearances maybe to get away from his past maybe. But this is what he looked like. That's his wife, Jominique or Jasminique Strickland. Take note of her, guys. Pay attention to her, and we will be back to her in a minute.
pastor, who was married, was also the local president of the NAACP. Anaya began attending his church at the beginning of that year.
And I went through her phone. She tussled with me about her phone. She died on her phone. Kind of got in like a fetal position with all her knees in her hands and saw that I was a pastor and saw what he said. And she kind of just gave up. Gave her the phone. And the whole time she was laughing. Grinning. When she gave me the phone, she was grinning and laughing. Because okay, if I do make that accusation, she could have that reaction that she had. Just to think about that after we find out it's fucked up.
So he says to think about, let me go back a bit here.
Grinning. When she gave me the phone, she was grinning and laughing. Because okay, if I do make that accusation, she could have that reaction that she had. Just to think about that after we find out it's fucked up.
Okay, so what I gathered, she's laughing at him, accusing her, or coming to the conclusion that she was sleeping with the Pastor Strickland because, first of all, at this time, he was like 36 years old. She's 21. He's a married man. He's the pastor of the church. She's on the choir and in the congregation. Like, you wouldn't even how dare we accuse the pastor of sleeping with the college girl? How dare we, right? So he felt between a rock and a hard place, and I'm not justifying what he did at all, okay? Because children are children, and I don't think just because you're 6'4", you're still emotionally, there's room for more intelligence emotionally, right? And room to grow. And at 21, you can't tell me you have all of your marbles, your ducks in a row. The kid said he didn't even have a job, and he was going to ask his dad to help them out, okay? But he has to now compete with a 37-year-old established pastor who's fully funded has a whole church behind him, a whole community behind him, and he's taking care of his girlfriend. He bought his girlfriend a car. I can see, and then when you're confronted with the reality of it, it's like, I'm not saying I understand, but I understand, if that makes any sense. I don't condone it. I don't condone violence of any kind. But I have empathy for people too. And this kid, I feel like, needs a little bit of empathy. But let's continue.
Upon the arrival of detectives, Donovan Lewis offered a full written confession to the murder. Donovan wrote that Anaya's Malibu had continued to get flat tires. The pastor had paid to have the tires mended.
So we're going to pause real quick. It says, abortion, violent dreams, survival instincts, paranoid that someone was always following and watching, flat tires, someone is doing this. My niece went missing, walking around outside of work, around the neighborhood or driving. I was being watched and followed. I woke up from the dream with her standing over me. I watch now, like, what's going on, why she didn't, care, why she was always walking away. So, this young man had a lot going on. Because this is supposed to be the confession. It's incoherent. And then it says, why was she walking away? Why she had her mind made up before she got home? Why was she crying over missing church the day before? So these are like just thoughts that were going through his head, right? Like, why is she acting like this, right? So he come to the conclusion like, yo, you really messing with the pastor, which she was. And he snapped.
At least once. Strickland then offered her the second Malibu, which he claimed to own, for her use. It too began getting flats and became unserviceable. The pastor began coming by the apartment more and more frequently to collect Anaya. Earlier in the year, she had taken an all-expense-paid trip with him and other choir members to the pastor's native Mississippi. According to Donovan, Anaya had admitted to him that she was using the relationship as leverage. after threatening to expose their relationship to his wife and others.
Look at his wife. He's from Mississippi. They're both from Mississippi. And they moved to Michigan. And they apparently been in Michigan from like 2012 or 2014, around that time frame. Anyone out there that knows, you can hit me in the comments and keep me more on track there. But around 2014, I'll say, they moved to Michigan from Mississippi. So, okay. Now, there were some things in Mississippi that made him leave, and we're going to get to that too. And they went to Michigan. While in Michigan, as he's doing it, he was at a, Second Baptist Church. He was a pastor. She's the first lady. Look at them. First lady and the pastor. He's messing with the girl in the choir, and he's going over to her house, or maybe it was the wife, going over to the house and flattening out the tires. She gives me the vibes of, I will come and flatten the tires. She gives me that vibe. Stay away from my man. He's mine. I'm going to flatten your tires. That's the vibe I get from her. So the girl kept on having flat tires. He kept on fixing it. Between him and her boyfriend, her real boyfriend, kept on fixing it. But this was letting the boyfriend become paranoid. Like, what's happening? And why are you crying because you missed church? Why you just didn't go to church? So, things weren't adding up until they did.
Donovan claimed that Strickland had threatened Anaya. Around the same time he dropped off the Malibu for her to drive, she had allegedly said that the pastor made it clear that he was willing to hurt her.
And that was 2018, guys.
That Sunday, Donovan had been drinking. Anaya was running a bath. He claimed to be drunk.
I just wish that he would have, either way, he would have been where he is now, in jail. But I wish that he would have redirected that anger to the correct person.
And exhausted from lack of sleep, having stayed up all night going through her phone. One text from Pastor Strickland in particular had him incensed. The two began to argue. Anaya told him that she wanted him to leave for good. She got out one of his suitcases and began packing his belongings into it. That is when Donovan said he struck her, rendering her unconscious. He said that he then went into the kitchen, got a large knife, and returned to the bedroom and slit her throat and stabbed her.
Lord.
He admitted that he then put a garbage bag over her head and put her into the suitcase.
Not super graphic,
He placed
terrible.
the suitcase.
Disturbing details tonight
and
about.
You see, that's why I cut it. Super graphic and terrible situation that happened. All right, but we're not done with the pastor. So this young lady met her demise because she had an illicit affair with the pastor of her church, who he even took her to Mississippi, to his hometown with the other people, and did church funded, trips and outings, etc. Right? And she was a part of that. Got 2 cars out of him, rent paid, everything, all while berating and belittling her boyfriend, who's her age, right? Like, them two could have potentially grew old together, got married, had kids, started a family, and worked through that together, right? Work up together. Hey, you don't got money, I don't got money, but we're building this life together, right? But we know how it is, especially when you see someone put together that's older, and we've all had the princess story, the fairy tale, fantasy, being swept away by the Prince Charming, right? So you can see where, and me being an older woman these days, I remember my 20s, you know what I'm saying? I can see how, she got caught up in the pastor's whatever, because he's put together, he's, has money, she can ask, he gives, so, and then she comes home to her boyfriend and is like, he can't even get his head from his, tail. He doesn't know left or right because they're kids. She didn't know left or right because I think if she would have thought about it, he's a married man. Why does he want to mess with you? What is this about? Right? But when I always say that where there's smoke, there's fire. So let's continue. That was, this story right here was 2018. We're going to move it up a little bit.
Garbage bag over her head and put her in.
Case against a prominent West.
Now, we're in Michigan still. We're still in Michigan. Do you see who's on the screen? Another news article, same pastor. So he skated by the skin of his teeth because the guy that, basically confessed to killing his, unaliving his girlfriend. But he kept on saying, look into this pastor, look into this pastor. He was threatening her. He kept control over her. And, she was trying to blackmail him to get out of it, blah, blah, blah. But you messed up and unalived her. That was incorrect. That wasn't the person you should have unalived, if anyone. But that story went away, right? The guy was, I'm a pillar of the community. All the church rallied around him. Our pastor had nothing to do with that. He's just trying to get out of it. He's a liar. He killed that beautiful young girl and he needs to go to jail. And he did. He got his time. He's doing his time. He's in jail, right? I think it's a little disheartening, though, because I feel like he, too, was a victim in this situation. But, and this is where I'll prove it. Let's continue.
Michigan pastor. Michigan State Police say that the Reverend Strickland and his wife used their jobs at a school and a church to recruit teenage boys, to send them naked photos and have sex for money. Strickland faces 11 felony counts, including child sex trafficking, child sexual abuse, and criminal sexual conduct. News 8's Susan Samples has covered the controversy surrounding Strickland for years.
Is it safe to say, guys, where there's smoke, there's fire? Is it safe to say that yet? When will we be able to say safely, where there's smoke, there's fire?
She's on this story tonight.
According to court documents, state police say the abuse happened here in the Strickland's church-owned home on Prairie in Kalamazoo. This is where investigators say the pastor and his wife sexually abused 4 teenage boys ages 15 to 17 over a 3-year period from 2015 to 2018.
Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
Do you hear the time frame? In Kalamazoo, Michigan, from 2015 to 2018, he and his wife, you saw the wife, you saw the homely looking first lady, but I digress, because people say I'm a hater. But she was in cahoots. She cooperated. From 2014 to 2018, they were doing this to young boys. Simultaneously, while that 21-year-old girl in the same town is being able to get money and cars, etc. from him. Got me feeling like who was being treated by the pastor, her or the boyfriend. But it's still a little gray area around that story for me, because that happened simultaneously while this was happening in the same town by the same people.
Guilty. Didn't do it, didn't do it, didn't do it.
This is
Now, in the midst of some serious stuff, I have to have a joke or two. This lawyer is my joke or two. So just pay attention to the lawyer. And then we're going to revisit this lawyer too. I'm telling you, the church ladies, the wife, all right? So the church ladies are going to support him. Those church ladies are from 2025 in the beginning. You see his wife. You see the first lady. She looks like she was happy to have a husband. I'll just leave it at that. And she cooperated with whatever he did, right? When everything went down, they both got charges.
This is where investigators say the pastor and his wife sexually abused 4 teenage boys ages 15 to 17 over a 3-year period from 2015 to 2018.
Girl across town.
Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
Lawyer, funny. He's funny.
This is Reverend Strickland, his attorney by his side, holding a news conference in early 2019 to deny all allegations back when they...
So 2018, the young man unalived his girlfriend. He went to jail. 2019, this is happening to the pastor.
First surfaced. Strickland was senior pastor at Second Baptist Church in Kalamazoo and a parapro at Phoenix High School, where his wife was a secretary. In the news conference, the now 37-year-old said he had opened the home he shared with his wife Jasminique and their 8 kids to other troubled young people in Kalamazoo, but only to help them find a better path.
We do that as the Word of God instructs us to do. We share our resources. We exercise good stewardship and do the best that we can to help as many people along the way. And it's very unfortunate that that is being seen as something negative.
In court records, Michigan State Police said Strickland and his wife used their jobs to find teenage boys who they paid from $50 to $200 for naked photos and to have sex with Strickland's wife in their basement while the pastor watched from an adjacent room with a window. One of the alleged victims told police Strickland lent him a car and said he could keep it if he allowed the pastor to perform a sex act on him.
Does that not sound familiar? What did the young man that unalived his girlfriend in the same town said? She got 2 cars from the pastor. These are children, okay? Ranging from, at this point, 15 to 21, right? That he had like a field day with. It was like a buffet. But let's listen to how, he got some of the children from church. He got some of the children from school because he's a pastor. Listen. The
teen said he felt coerced because he needed the car. Another teen told police his grandmother had arranged for Strickland to mentor him. State police and court records say Strickland engaged...
So I'm going to say like this. The one teen said his grandmother basically encouraged him to be mentored by Strickland. So the grandmother was in church, right? The grandmother was probably one of those devout elder parishioners that he was talking about, right? Because they do have a type that they like for that support.
In similar behavior with his ex-wife years ago in his home state of Mississippi.
The pastor boy has me going down the rabbit hole. So that wife that we seen on in the pictures is his second wife, right? Which he married and then moved to Michigan, away from Mississippi, because he got caught with his first wife in similar situations in Mississippi, doing similar acts with children in Mississippi. He left that wife because, to me, I'm feeling like my spidey senses, maybe the wife wasn't down with it. Maybe he gets a certain type of woman that he can control and move them with the word of God, and they will, move accordingly. So the first wife was out after everything got exposed and divorced him and went on her way. He picked up his second wife and moved to Michigan and continued to lay a path of destruction out in the name of the Lord. But let's continue.
That's where he lives now, though he's expected to turn himself in Kalamazoo this week. His wife's attorney says he expects charges to be filed against her in the near future. In Kalamazoo, Susan Samples, News 8.
Is reached in a case. The ultimate resolution.
So, we're going to bring it up a bit now. This is 2020. 2020. Look at him. Look how he looks at this attorney, at this woman. Look, let me put my mouse on it. This is the pastor. Pastor Strickland. Look at his attorney. Remember a year or two before he was like, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. That's what it's going to read all the way down. Look at the body language. Look how far his attorney is sitting from him. Look. Can you see my mouse? Because I'm all over the place. This right here is the pastor. This is the attorney that's basically prosecuting him, the prosecutor. This right here is the defendant. Remember in the beginning, he was like, not guilty, not guilty. Watch him. Watch his body language. Watch everything about this guy now. You just saw him a few minutes ago. He's like, not guilty, right? And let's watch him now. But in particular, watch the pastor, how he looks at this lady. Like if he can like laser beam and burn her and cut her in half, he would. Okay? If he could do this with his eyes, he would. Okay? Look how he looks at her. Let's continue.
Was not what the people had hoped for when charges were originally filed. However, the resolution was fashioned in a way that required the defendant to take some responsibility for his actions while sparing the victims
the embarrassment
and trauma of discussing.
Look at his attorney. He's like, I just want to get out of here.
Open court. I naively hoped that the guilty plea would force the defendant to consider his behavior and show remorse for those he harmed. Clearly, based on the information in the PSI, no such remorse exists. The defendant continues to care only about himself.
He don't care.
Mr. Strickland, and I say Mr., in hopes that he is not now, nor ever again in the future, in a position to justify the title of pastor. Mr. Strickland was in a powerful position. He could have done real good. He could have mentored these young men at a critical time in their lives. He could have made a positive difference. And instead, he manipulated them, took advantage of them, and forever harmed them for his own warped sexual pleasure.
I want to acknowledgement that I'm not here today to be.
Now tell me if this is a man that's remorseful, sorry, or even feels guilty about anything.
Pious and to pretend as though I am innocent and without fault. However, I am not guilty of what I was accused of. I am glad that the 10 most heinous charges were dismissed, and eventually the prosecutors, with their backs against the wall, made a deal that I believe was too good of a deal to put my family through the risk of going through a trial. And also, we had already spent so much and were so financially exhausted with the case, we just simply could not continue to move forward. So I did.
So you heard him say, it's not about his innocence, right? It's not about trying to prove his innocence. It's like, we just tired of this. We tired of it, and so whatever, I did a plea deal. But, you know, I'm not owning up to any of the crimes.
What my counsel thought was in the best interest of the case by resolving it with minimal collateral damage. I would like to also make the acknowledgement that these same accounts initially were associated with my wife. My wife overcame 9 or 10 of these counts in a probable cause hearing where the burden of proof is at its very lowest. I do feel as though the prosecutor and his office have got a substantial deal in me being able to take this plea because I do not feel that they would have prevailed at trial, and I do not believe that the facts were on their side.
Still talking crap. Did he not talk crap? He wanted to, basically, because he was mad when that lady was talking. So he's like, I'm going to have the last word. Yeah, I'm guilty. I pled guilty, whatever. Took the best deal, whatever. But I'm not guilty, and I don't care what you're saying. There's no remorse there. This was in 2019. Okay?
Respect to Ms. Carlisle as
or
counsel,
2020.
And her thoughts about me as a pastor and as a leader, I would respectfully respond to that by saying that there is certainly a lack of integrity in the prosecutor's office, and they are pretending to be advocating for victims. But if the accusations that they have were true,
look at the lawyer looking at him.
How is this justice for the victims? 1 year, no registry, no probation. How is this justice for anybody involved?
You hear how he kind of like, that's some narcissism. This is grade A narcissism right here. He basically took a plea deal, right? I don't even know how they even offered him a plea deal. It could have been a situation where it was like, the kids don't want to testify. We don't want to put them through that, whatever. But he gets to do a year in jail, no registry, no sex offender registry, and he can business as usual for him. So of course he's not feeling guilty. He got away with the last one. You know, his name was all over investigative discoveries with that 21-year-old girl. But guess what? I didn't do it. Those are kids. That has nothing to do with me. But he's playing and stirring these pots. Okay? Stirring these pots and then moving back, and under the guise of being a pastor and a pillar in the community, I'm not gonna get it. I'm just gonna get a slap on the wrist.
This is not justice. This is.
And then you say something like this to shine on the prosecutor. Oh, this isn't justice. You didn't win because nothing happened to me. You know. What about the victims? Because I'm gonna go terrorize them once I leave here. Allegedly.
Simply. I know that they'll use their imps in the media to try to pretend that they won in some way, or that this is some win for the prosecutor's office. This is not a win for the prosecutor's office, and it's certainly not a win for the cause of justice. But however, it was the best decision for my family, and it was the decision.
And let me ask you guys, just with him saying that right there. What is it just me? Am I the only one that took that as an admission of guilt? Like, yeah, I did it. And guess what? You gave no justice to the victims. And I'm walking away with it. So how do you think you won? I won. Because I did it. There's victims out there. And there's no justice for them. Did y'all not see that? Look at his lawyer's face. His lawyer's like, this piece of work right here. Man, the lawyer ain't get up and say nothing because he knows a guilty man. That's my vibe. I feel like he knew he was guilty when he was like, not guilty, not guilty. He was like, man, you're going to have to take a plea deal. That's what you're going to have to do. But let's continue.
That my counsel encouraged me to make.
All right.
Former Kalamazoo pastor accused of paying teens for sex is headed to jail. Strickland was sentenced to 1 year in jail.
1 year.
He's the former pastor at Second Baptist Church. A state police
Terrorizing 4 young
investigation found
boys.
he and his wife used their positions within their church.
And did I mention that they had, between him and his wife, they have 9 children? I don't know if they're adopted, if they're birthed, or what. But between them two, legally, in some capacity, parental-wise, they have 9 kids. Plus, they're taking in kids from the community.
And Kalamazoo Public Schools to coerce 14 boys into sex between 2015 and 2018. Strickland took a deal last year to plead guilty to 1 count of knowingly offering to sell transportation services for the purpose of engaging in prostitution. All other charges were dropped. At his sentencing this morning, Strickland
up tonight on News 8 at 5. Developing news out of Kalamazoo, the wife of a pastor accused of paying teenagers for sex is now facing charges.
Target 8 investigator Susan Samples has followed this case for years, and she's at the live desk with the latest. Susan.
Strick and Jasminique Strickland are accused of using their positions at a Kalamazoo church and the Kalamazoo Public School District to coerce teen boys into sex. Court records show Jasminique Strickland is now facing 3 counts of
right there, she don't look that bad.
3rd-degree criminal sexual conduct, as well as...
But she did whatever the pastor told her to do. And then look where it landed her.
2 counts of child sexually abusive activity and 3 counts of human trafficking a minor. She has not yet been officially charged. Last September, her husband, Strickland, was charged with several child sex abuse counts himself. Strickland is the former pastor of Second Baptist Church and worked for Kalamazoo Public Schools. Investigators allege Strickland paid the teens to have sex with Jasminique and send him nude photos. This has all allegedly happened between 2015 and 2018. Strickland has denied the allegations. Again, Jasminique has not been formally charged as of yet. We'll continue to follow her case and keep you updated.
So
an ex-pastor in Kalamazoo.
So some people, and I'm just kind of going through it real quick, but some people will say, oh, well, he didn't get that time. You know, he didn't get the time for them boys, so it didn't happen. He wasn't. Why would they let him go if he was guilty? Did that not whole scene? He admitted his guilt, but then he also shined on the prosecutor and was like, yo, I took a plea deal. The best offer given to me. So I took it, and I won. I only got to go to jail for a year. And guess what? After that, it's back to business for me. And I'm going to move to another town and keep it pushing, right? So, and then in my opinion, I just feel like that, you know, label of being a pastor had some type of played a big part, a pivotal part in him. I'm pretty sure some community members, church members came to his aid and spoke on his behalf and defended him. Like, these boys, these kids are liars. They don't know what they're talking about. But now we know that there's at least 5 young men that were, lives were ruined, you know, by this pastor. Because we can't forget the girl whose boyfriend, well, 5 men, 1 girl, whose lives were ruined as children by this man in 1 state, 1 town, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Who was convicted of sex crimes is back behind bars for crimes against another church. We told you first about Strickland in 2020 when he was charged with 11 felonies and sentenced to a year in Kalamazoo County Jail. Strickland took a plea deal for those crimes when he was a pastor at Second Baptist Church in Kalamazoo. But tonight we're learning he took on the role of pastor of the Galilee Missionary Baptist Church in Mount Olive, Mississippi, and became the subject of another investigation last October. The police chief in that county confirms Strickland and a deacon at the church are charged with embezzlement after police say they stole more than $90,000 in church funds. The investigation began in October, and the men turned themselves in on Tuesday. Strickland's bond was set at $150,000.
2019. This is what this young man was faced with, because that man put that girl in a very tight situation, which then put this young man in a tight situation. Lives ruined because of that pastor, okay? But he gets to live another day. He gets to roam free, and then he gets to go to Mount Olive, Mississippi, and embezzle $90,000 from a brand new church that was over there minding their business. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I always say this, right? And they say if you lie, you cheat. If you cheat, you steal. If you steal, you kill. It goes on up. It goes on up. It grows. And look, every bad vice you could think of was mixed up in here with this guy. But he's safe. He's good. And he still has a supporting team, supporting congregation, because he just hides behind the cross, for lack of a better word. But you guys tell me, do I be reaching? I don't be looking for this stuff, guys. It comes at me. But this one, because I've seen it over the years play out with this pastor, but not even putting two and two together until recently. Like, dude, you just don't even care. You don't even care. Because you got away with murder, literally. You got away with, doing crazy PDF stuff with the children, abuse. You know what I'm saying? Now you embezzled $100,000 from the new church that you've been at in less than a year. Less than a year. The church has left, and you see the congregation. You see his congregation. They're steadfast. They believe in him, and they're going to ride with him to the end, and they'll probably fight people on his behalf, or at least cuss you out on his behalf, because he's their pastor. But no one thought about those children. I wonder how that grandmother feels to know that she sent her 15-year-old grandson to be mentored by him in Michigan, only for him to be assaulted by him. Was it his fault because he was a bad kid? Was the pastor guilty? Did you have any remorse because the hand you played in trusting him and encouraging, or if not forcing, him to go to church and be around the pastor? I'll leave it there. But you guys, you know how I do. Join me in the comments and y'all tell me, was this a wild one or not? Okay? He went from Mississippi to Kalamazoo, Michigan, back to Mississippi with his madness. And he's getting love everywhere he go because he's a pastor. And they're not even caring to look into his past, because I guess that's what's being a part of a pastor. No one should have to worry about your past. But I think sometimes we should. I understand they say you can't hold a man's past against him, etc. But sometimes we should. It's called criminal history for a reason. History is there for a reason. All right, but y'all tell me, was this a wild one? Am I reaching? Is he innocent? Is it just he's been misunderstood several times over several years of his life, and he should continue being a pastor at the church? You all tell me there, and you know how I do. I'm gonna go ahead and hit you with the motto and hit you with the brand right now. If you like anything I do, tell a friend. If you don't like anything I do, tell a friend. And from my lips to your ears, I love you, but I need you to love me. So go ahead and subscribe, okay? Once you subscribe, turn on your notifications, okay? Hit the likes, hit the comments, share with a friend, and tell a friend, all right? And until next time, it's your girl Gangali. It's She Could Talk the Podcast, and I'm out. Peace. They talk about it. They talk about it.